Oh yeah. So what I sent you was the link to Miller World.
Oh my god. Oh my god. What is? Hold on. Let me adjust your sound. You are. Hold on. You are too
I just
loud. Yes.
yeah. I just moved from one room to the bedroom, and I
Yes.
pulled the laptop across the sheets, and it was just
What is that?
that.
Do you hear like a high, like kind of like digital type of like whistling, or is that just on my end?
I did for a second, but it's not there anymore.
Yeah. All right. All right. Hold on. I think we're just about ready to go. Let me just bring up the control here, the control room. Okay.
I like that the only thing I have of you is just your picture, the one on Google.
My very professional looking John against a brick wall.
What was that?
Just my natural habitat. Comic-Con. And also Nickel City Comic-Con. Maybe we can talk about that. Talk about it like it's more recent than it was. You can actually disable your video too if you get self-conscious, but it's up to you.
No, I'm not.
You're not self-conscious.
Self-conscious. No, I know how great I look.
Because this is my surroundings aren't very aesthetically pleasing. Right now I'm in the basement. No? Right now I'm in the basement here. Here is the basin. This is the only outlet in the downstairs area. There's the rest of the basement. Here, just a lot of stuff going on over there. There's some paints. We were doing some painting earlier, but I'm distracted by my own image, and obviously, I don't want people seeing me. Wow, I'm so over what's the word? Overexposed by the light. But I'm gonna turn my video off because I look like hell today. And
no, you look fine.
Let's go back to the professional headshot. There he is. There he is. All right, very good, very good. All right, welcome to. Let's see. Let's start again. Distracted by the notes here. Welcome to Super Friends Super Show, issue number 14. It's the night shift in the daytime. Longest title of all time. Sean Dwyer, Sean Brennan talking to you about superhero movie news, comic books. Pro wrestling comes up not as much in this episode, although you might have, Sean Brennan, some interesting observations that I might not be aware of in the way of pro wrestling. Usually you and I, usually it's Mike McLean who is a lifelong pro wrestling fan. You yourself, though not to discredit how much of a pro wrestling fan you've become recently, you've just become a wrestling fan as per Lucha Underground more recently. Yeah. That's what got you into it, which is a recent occurrence.
Yeah, it did. It's really interesting that Lucha Underground is almost unknown company that brought together a lot of really good wrestlers from a lot of different areas of the wrestling universe and brought them all together under one room. And it's great because with Lucha Underground, there's not really them sitting there and trying to go ahead and go from city to city. They actually go from one home, which they film constantly.
What's it called? It's like Wrestling Alteca. What's it called again? What's the name of their studios? The something of Destiny. Doesn't have like a very epic sounding. Doesn't their arena have a very epic sounding name?
I forget. I don't know.
That's fine. That's fine. If this broadcast, it sounds like we are broadcasting from some type of Aztec tomb, it's because we are broadcasting on Google Hangout, not to give them a free plug, and I am broadcasting from my basement because my son is sleeping soundly. So if it sounds echoey, if Sean Brennan sounds more buttery today on his audio, it's because he is on his home turf.
From my bedroom.
From your bedroom, where you just home field advantage, I think, has never been more prevalent than on today's show.
It's great because I don't have to wear pants. No one knows this, but I guess I just let the cat out of the bag.
That's right. And what a cat. Kitty's got claws all over the place because we are fresh from a comic book event ourselves. We'll get into this before we get into the topics on today's show. Is the week that was, or the last 2 weeks, we've been off for a couple of weeks in the world of superhero movie news and comics. We were at Nickel City Comic Con, Dave and Adam's card shop. They hosted an event at the Buffalo Niagara Falls Convention Center, and you attended, I attended, Sarah Ali attended. And
she was there indeed.
She was there in the flesh. Pokemon Go was on everybody's lips.
Everybody's.
What stood out for you for this event? This is Dave and Adam's first ever Comic-Con, Nickel City Comic-Con, the inaugural event. What did you think? Overall impressions?
I thought it was really good. I thought that a company that has newly, at least in my eyes, started to go into the comic book realm, because they've always been somebody that sells collectibles as sports memorabilia. You know, they have a contract with the Buffalo Bills, Buffalo Sabres. I don't know what other Buffalo team, but they do. But this is the first time that they've done something on such a large stage for comics, and I thought like 90% of it was really good. There just happened to be a small 10% that sold bootleg DVDs and artwork.
Steamy underbelly. We're in the ghettos of the vendor alleys, the tables. If you kind of venture back into the seedier areas, you found I think it was called Epic. Oh, Epic.
It was called Fatal Planet Productions.
Fatal Planet. Very good memory. Very good memory. Fatal Planet. I actually looked at. I believe I came across them separately because they were selling bootleg merchandise at another Comic-Con, and someone else blew them in. So this isn't the first that Fatal Planet has had their name dragged through the mud as far as selling some, I guess, some not so legitimate merchandise. We were looking through, and I guess this isn't a brand new thing when it comes to Comic-Cons, having vendors who are selling things that are not, they really don't have authorization to sell as far as merchandise. They were selling, there was a Book of Mormon live production, which I'm sure they've never I'm sure the actual stage show, they've never authorized an official video version of the Book of Mormon. And Wicked 2, the Star Wars Holiday Special. This guy was selling these, and I guess this is a mainstay of comic book conventions. A lot of these runners of these shows, they'll just take your money, and they sort of, unless the police come to the door saying, hey, these guys are selling this and they shouldn't be selling this, and you're going to get in trouble unless you tell them to stop. Unless they get in trouble for it, they'll take the vendor's money to get them that table, and as long as no one's getting arrested that day, it's all the same to the vendor. But it's too bad, because you have legitimate tables and vendors and merchandise stands who sell their stuff legitimately, and you have these guys who are just making a quick buck on bootlegged merchandise. So that's sad to see. Yeah,
the funny thing was that there was people just like going up there. They had pins. They also had some posters, and they're just kind of rifling through, thinking about, oh, this is cool, this is great.
Right.
But they had a Hamilton DVD, and as you and I both know,
they never commissioned a Hamilton live broadcast. Absolutely.
No. As you and I both know, for those less in the art world, for stage production, that Hamilton's the hottest ticket in town right now, and there's no way that these two men, one who looks like probably the build of Jabba the Hutt, and another guy who just seems like a drunkard from a bar in the 50s, that they ever got any clearance to go ahead with the DVD release, just them specifically for the DVD release of Hamilton.
Yeah, Comic-Con's, Fatal Planet Productions, that's certainly a black eye on the face of Comic-Cons. There's it's a neat gathering. You have a lot of like-minded people who enjoy hobbies, hobbyist things and comics and celebrities. Comic Cons are a strange bag. You have a lot of the great good things. It's a nice gathering, the cosplaying, and then you have like celebrity rows. You have the celebrity alleys where you just have the celebrities on display like it's a zoo, and you can't make eye contact with them because they expect you to pay them for the I guess to grace you with their presence. It's a very Comic Cons are, if you've never been to a Comic Con, they are a very strange bag. And we've been to Comic Cons in the past. Buffalo City Comic Con. Or rather Buffalo Comic Con. I'm confusing them with Buffalo City Life. Buffalo Comic Con, who just had a show at the same venue, Niagara Falls Convention Center. They didn't have as many celebrities, and I would almost say that maybe that's not getting as many people through the door, but that's almost to their credit. It's weird having celebrities at these shows.
Well, it's a small city. Buffalo really has only had Queen City Comics doing Comic Cons. This is again the first time that a non-Queen City bookstore is doing a Comic Con, and so what we have is David Adams, who specifically have worked with Neil Adams, the artist. He was there signing stuff. You could get stuff from him, whatever. But it was interesting because you could see that they were trying to mimic the more now popular type of Comic-Con.
Right, trying to use that template.
Exactly, where they have guests come in, they have actors, whatever, as opposed to Queen City Con, which I'm going to call it from now on, so people know what I'm talking about, is more of a traditional Comic-Con. We have comics, you have artists, you don't really have big name actors or huge artists like a Neil Adams, but you have local people there more than you do bigger guys. You don't have someone who's worked exclusively with Kevin Smith, because at the Comic-Con that the Nickel City Con, I apologize, they had comic book men, all four of them, sans Kevin Smith, and they also had the one actor who's worked in Kevin Smith films, Clerks and Clerks. Yeah, he was there. The man who played Dante.
Oh, okay, yeah. Dante was there from. He kind of does cameos from time to time on comic book men, which I'm not personally, even as a comic book fan, I'm not a fan of comic book men. It's such a strange. There's Sarah, who's still recovering in the background. Sarah Lee, still recovering from Nickel City. I guess ingested a lot of that nickel in the air. You know, it was just,
it was everywhere. It was everywhere.
Just everywhere. They were crushing up nickel. People are ingesting it. Sarah is still recovering. It's sad to hear. Hopefully, she fast recovery for Sarah. But these are interesting shows. Yeah, right. You have Buffalo Comic Con, which is coming up in a couple of weeks. Same venue, is more of the comic book enthusiasts type of show, as opposed to one of these pop culture celebrations that a lot of these comic cons are becoming. They're weird. I almost would prefer that the celebrities not be there. It's not. I do. You know, one of the things that they did, although I didn't have a chance to attend, they did have a Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Panel where you can actually go into a room. You didn't have to pay an extra fee to have some of these Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. actors, people involved in the show, answering questions. That's a neat service. But the other way around, when you have to go to a table and exchange money for them to look at you, or maybe put their arm awkwardly around your shoulder and sign something, it's a weird thing that I would almost prefer not be involved in one of these comic book conventions. But I guess it's a necessary evil. That's how you get people in the door. That's how you promote these things, is saying that this person's going to be there. I think most people don't realize that, Ric Flair was there, but he's not like walking around the show floor and like cracking wise with people.
Yeah.
He's very protected by, it's almost like the Four Horsemen. He's got his horsemen around him, making sure that no one is messing with the champ unless you pay.
Well, I mean, you have to make sure no one's around there, or else they're going to get chopped, just straight to the chest.
Right. Chops. Even at 70 years old, Ric Flair can still deliver a stiff knife edge chop. It's stiffer even if he's had a couple drinks. A couple stiff drinks, as Ric Flair is known to do. You know, in his later years, those classic stories. But we talk about superhero movie news, comic books. Pro wrestling has come up, as I... Sean Brennan and I have already discussed. Lucha Underground. Interesting about Lucha Underground, I'm more of a I like all of wrestling. And from Lucha Underground, you have Prince Puma, who is really starting to get some notoriety on the national stage as Ricochet, as he's known now in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Johnny Mundo, as you might know, as John Morrison from WWE. And Sean Brennan, you might be pleased to hear that Alberto Del Rio has just been released from the WWE, and you know him in Lucha Underground as Alberto Del Patron or something. He might be coming back.
Yeah. So it's great to see that this small company that is only exclusively on the El Rey network doing so well.
And again, this is, I think, a good comparison. Lucha Underground with the smaller, more wrestlers show compared to the Comic-Cons, where maybe Buffalo Comic-Con is the Comic-Con's Comic-Con, where WWE is really just something for everybody. That's the bigger show, just having these useless celebrities who are just getting people in the door, but it's not, the product itself is not as personal. And either the two, I think you can draw a lot of parallels between Lucha Underground really being more of a what wrestling was meant to be, much like Buffalo Comic-Con, just having local artists, just celebrating comics, much like this show does from time to time. The Super Show. From time to time. Now that that's out of the way, we have Buffalo Comic-Con coming up, so we'll have a full report on that. This is going to be our third Comic-Con, Buffalo Comic-Con, that we have attended, I think, coming up.
Yeah, it is. Because the first one we did was at the Marriott. We had a table there. The second time, it was our first time at the Buffalo Convention Center. And this time, we are going back to the Buffalo Convention Center. Yes. We are going to make sure to find that guy who dressed up like Slade, ? I don't know, remember who it was, but we're going to go there. We're going to talk to him. We're going to have words about his workout requirements, because he has great buns.
Yeah, we are not going to have a table this time, which actually, I got to say, that's probably a breath of fresh air. I think having a table at one of these shows is very limiting. You're really
It really is.
Because you can't get up and really walk around and kind of see the show because you're afraid your equipment's going to get stolen. It's a weird type of... so I feel we're going to have regular media passes. We're going to walk around and just kind of be free to interview people on the show floor and really give a thorough report, because we'll be actually out there. You feel very removed from the actual show when you just have a table. So I think it'll be a better experience all around for us, the listener, on a future show of the Super Friends Super Show. But let's get to the comic book and superhero movie news. Sean Brennan, let's talk first about the latest controversy of a long list of controversies. Mary Jane from Spider-Man lore is a long-seated love interest of Peter Parker. And long-seated, lots of seeds all linked together. She is going to be in the upcoming Spider-Man Homecoming, Marvel Studios production, joint Sony Pictures Marvel Studio production. Right now, I guess they still have their CD paws all over this production, Sony Studios, but Mary Jane is going to be in this film, Spider-Man Homecoming, and the controversy is that she is not going to be the Mary Jane that you might be accustomed to seeing, whether it be on the pages of the comic books or as Kristen Dunst portrayed her back in the early 2000s. This is a different type of Mary Jane we're going to use. We're going to get ready to see if the rumors are true, if the casting sheet is correct.
So why is it different than what we've seen before, Sean?
You are playing, you want me to say, you're playing coy. This version, I'll just come out and say it. I'll take the bullet for the team. This version of Mary Jane is going to be of the African-American persuasion. If I believe she is African-American, I don't know what the actress's full background, her background, Zendaya. Zendaya. See, you know her better than I do. You should have led the discussion with this. Zendaya Marie Stromer Coleman. That is a name and a half on our Wikipedia page. She is a actress, singer, dancer, model. So very young. She is African American though, and as many people know, Mary Jane is a predominantly white character. Has always been, and people have taken, I guess, umbrage to the fact that she is going to be portrayed in this upcoming movie, if rumors are to be believed, by a black actress. What do you think, Sean Brennan? As far as let's unpack this. What do you think the controversy is? Should there be a controversy? Do people have a point?
No, people are just overacting. Like, any time that this happened, this even happened back when Thor, the first movie, happened. Remember when, I think it was the Gatekeeper, was played by Idris Elba?
Hadil, what's the, Hemdale or something?
I don't even remember.
All these ancient names of the gods, Hemdale or something, I think is the name of the person who guards the Rainbow Bridge. Played by a very beloved actor, whose name escapes me right now. Very, very well-renowned actor, and he did a fine job. I don't think that, as far as these type of superhero roles, you have to be black or white. I think you can change one or the other. It doesn't matter if you're, to quote Michael Jackson, even if you're my brother, it don't matter if you're black or white, you know? And I think in this case, it's never been more of a true statement. But Mary Jane, you know, has been you picture her in your head as having white skin, red hair, and people are upset about this, but should they be upset about this at all? Is this just something that...
No, they shouldn't. Honestly, it really matters if the character, the actress, can play the character well. Right. Because the thing is that she doesn't have to be Mary Jane from the streets, because she's not white. And Mary Jane could be white and come from the streets, as in she had lived in, like, the east side or west side or whatever. Right. It doesn't really matter.
Coming from, right. And I think this is something that people need to be more accepting of. These characters, and people say, you know, people get upset when they whitewash certain characters. You take a character like for example, this upcoming what's the movie with Scarlett Johansson that's coming out soon?
Ghost in the Shell.
Ghost in the Shell, where they're whitewashing this entire cast, where it's an anime, so you have a lot of Japanese characters, and since it's an American studio making this film, you have them all, basically most of them are going to be white actors. And that's, I think, fine, because, you know, it's in that case, it's a white studio, so you're trying to basically draw in American audiences. That's fine.
Even they talked to Asian people who love this anime, and they all expected this. They didn't expect them to be racially correct. They just saw this and they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense, because it's Hollywood and she's a Hollywood actress. That's why this always happens. It's why it's always happened. It's because Hollywood has a decision to make, and it's either, do I take the actress or actor who happens to be of that ethnicity, who is probably a little known but could play well the character, or do they go ahead and get someone who's popular in Hollywood, who's more than likely white, and then go with that, and then just try to deal with it however they do it? And everybody's like, yeah, I can understand why a company is doing that. Mainly because of the money, and that's all there is to it. Of course, you can get these actresses, you can get these actors who are of that ethnicity. It's just that, do they want to maybe risk the money?
Right. Well, in the case of Mary Jane here, now you have people coming out of the woodwork saying, well, this goes against the core of the character. She's always been a white character. What are you going to do? You're going to take a black character? Would have been okay if you take a black character and make them white? People will be upset about that. It's the same exact thing. You can't take a white character and make him black. It's at the core of the character that Mary Jane is a white person. And that's the problem that you're going to continue to run into. If you look back at the history of comics, all of the characters, based on the time that they were created, are predominantly white. So you have very few roles. So if you're just sticking by that framework, you're going to have no roles for minorities, because when these characters were being created, I think it even almost went against the comic code to have characters with different racial backgrounds being featured in your comic books, the comic code that was presented, I think that was almost against it. I know in the case where, say, for example, Black Panther, when he was first debuted, he had a Batman type of mask where the lower half of his face was shown. You could see his actual face with his mask, but people had asked him. I guess they went to Marvel and they changed it so they covered up the entirety of his face, so you couldn't see he was a black man, because that hurt. I guess they were afraid that was going to hurt sales, knowing that this was a black character. So based on the time, you couldn't have other black characters of color being created, because it didn't kind of go in line with the times. So you can't stick to that now in modern times. You can't keep all characters white because they've always been white. That was just kind of the way that things were. So you can't get upset every single time you take a character with no consequence like Mary Jane. There's no reason why she at her core needs to be black or white. And you can't I don't think you can raise the argument, well, it's core to her character that she be white, because that's racist. I think you can't, that's racism right there. The fact that you think that Mary Jane can't be played by an African American.
Yeah, there's no reason for it. It's honestly, how well can the actor or actress portray that person?
Because you went back when Johnny Storm from the Fantastic Four reboot, when Michael Johnson or Michael Jordan is his name again, right? Michael Jordan, when rumors came out that they were going to be casting Johnny Storm as with a black actor, people were up in arms. But again, that goes back to the fact that if you got up in arms about every single time, if you weren't allowed to I guess divert from the source material, you'd never have a black character or a minority playing any of these roles. And I think you can't. I think you have to open that up, and people need to be more open-minded. So hopefully, Mary Jane is a pretty prominent character. So kind of race switching this, I think, is a very good move, and will allow people to, I think, be more open and accepting to, I guess, changing of races in the future for characters where that's not core. And there are very few characters where being white, I'm not sure who is off limits here as far as if you were to change a person's race, who's off limits? Is everyone on the table?
I don't think anybody is off limits. I mean, honestly, it really comes down to, one, is the script good? Two, can the actor or actress portray this character? And that's really it. I don't care about their ethnicity in the sense of this character was white in the comics, and now let's say that they're Asian or that they're Hispanic in the movie, because it's a movie. That's the thing. There's a reason why they're totally different. It's the same reason why people are up in arms when one thing gets changed in the movies, and they don't understand that movies do not create success for the comics, and that's something that's been proven time and time again. Even if the comic industries are trying to capitalize on it, it doesn't work. That's just all it is.
Right. You can't do a direct translation of a comic book storyline or comic itself, or else you get The Watchmen. Zack Snyder's The Watchmen, where he basically did a direct translation, and it was long and boring, and it was fine. It was pretty faithful as far as an adaptation, but it was long and boring. You have to take certain liberties with adapting these stories to the silver screen. But I think the only characters that I think are kind of off the table as it comes to as it goes back to changing a white character to a minority, I think would be a character that's central to their character, who maybe, in the case of Captain America, where he himself is from, he was frozen back in the 30s or 40s, and I guess that's the only thing where that's central to his character, because he's from a different time.
Yeah.
These other characters, they change and they kind of adapt, where Captain America is always a person from an earlier time. So I guess he's sort of the only one. Granted, you have variations on Captain America right now. Sam Wilson, who's the Falcon, he is playing a version of Captain America in the comics, but Captain America Steve Rogers himself, I think, always, to me anyways, always has to be a white character because of the fact he was frozen in time in a certain era where I don't think you could have a Captain America who was black in the 1930s and 1940s. But aside from him, I can't think of anyone who's off the table that you couldn't switch.
Yeah.
The race of the actor portraying them. There are people who just these beloved characters who can never see Peter Parker being a black character, but why not? And a lot of people are coming to the defense of this Mary Jane controversy. The director of Guardians of the Galaxy, James Gunn, has come out saying people get upset when something they consider intrinsic to a comic book character changes. There are movies I dislike because I think there's a basic misunderstanding of the story of the character when the comic is transferred to film. I still hate how in the first Batman movie, the Joker was revealed as the murderer of Bruce Wayne's parents, for instance. That said, I do not believe a character is the color of his skin. When Michael B. Jordan, as we referenced, was cast as Johnny Storm, I didn't understand the uproar. The primary characteristic of Johnny was not to me that he was white or that he had blonde hair. It's that he was fiery, funny, big-mouthed, and he's a big hero. I was happy that he was going to be played by one of the finest, most charming actors out there. And I think that basically sums it up. You basically, I think you have a very flimsy character if that character is defined by either having red hair or being white or black. I mean, you have to take the characteristics. Those should always be the core of a character and not what they look like. Otherwise, I think you have a pretty flimsy character. So I think people who are kind of holding dear to the fact that Mary Jane should always be white and are up in arms, that people should consider changing that in 2016. These people need to get with the times, That's what I think. And unfortunately, this is going to happen the next time there's a controversy. I'm sure we're going to have the same discussion. It takes a long time for society to somewhat catch up and for everyone to get on board with the fact that these characters were created a long time ago when all these characters were portrayed as being white, because I guess it was taboo to have a character of color on in your comic book. So
people have to accept also remember that all the writers were white and all the artists were white as well. That's the thing. It wasn't as if black artists and black or Asian artists didn't exist. It's just they weren't creating these characters. There's a reason why most of the X-Men are white, because it was written by white men, drawn by white men, and that you write what you know. If you don't know how to write a black character, you don't write that character as black. You write that character as white.
Right, and we spoke about Steve Rogers as being maybe the only character that you would have a hard time, I guess, switching the race of Steve Rogers based on the fact that he was from the 1930s and 40s and is still portrayed as being from that time. And Steve Rogers from the MCU might have a different future in an upcoming movie with Avengers Infinity War, where he might not be Captain America in an upcoming Avengers film based on the events of Captain America Civil War. And what do you think? What do you take from that? Some of the rumors are coming out that he won't be Captain America.
I mean, it was only a matter of time.
Right.
The thing is that Captain America isn't one of these characters that you can continue to have come back. The problem is that humans don't have the Captain America serum. They don't not age. People age in real time, and movies don't age in real time. They're shot over the course of 2 or 3 years. and then you get the final product that's edited and cut down. And sometimes, depending on how well it's received, they won't even make another film. So,
well, I think in this instance, they're referring to Steve Rogers being, just to avoid any confusion, being in the upcoming Avengers Infinity War movie, but he is not going to be Captain America. He's no longer going to be carrying around the moniker of Captain America. Steve Rogers is portrayed by Chris Evans, or am I thinking who's the actor? Chris Pratt is the actor who plays Star-Lord. Chris Evans is Steve Rogers. He's still going to be in the film, but I guess would be. What do you think? He's going to be more? He's going to be similar to his Nomad character that he wore for the 1970s when he put down the shield. When I guess he is portrayed when he was betrayed by, I don't know, whatever organization, the United States at that time, and he put down the shield like he did at the end of Civil War, and do you think he's going to be similar to his Nomad character, where he's going to still be known by some type of code name, or do you think in this upcoming Avengers film, Steve Rogers is just going to be Steve Rogers, and that's it? That's all there is to it.
He just might be Steve Rogers. I mean, it's not saying that he's not a part of the film anymore, as you said before. He's just not Captain America, and that's completely fine, because you can have him age just like you had Robert Downey Jr. age with the movies as they go. They don't always have to be that role. He doesn't always have to be Iron Man. He can easily just be Captain America or Tony Stark.
Well, we've seen that already. I think they've done a nice job already, but I think, the reason we're talking about this one today is because this is grabbing headlines. The announcement that the Russo brothers mentioned. The Russo brothers, again, are the directors of the upcoming Avengers Infinity War film, that Steve Rogers officially will not be Captain America. And of course, the media grasped onto this, and this is headline news that Captain America, he's no longer Captain America. But I think this is all part of the storyline. They've done this in the past already, where most of Civil War, most of Captain America, the Winter Soldier, Steve Rogers was just running around being Steve Rogers. He's on the run. He's in disguise. So I don't think this is going to be really any different than that. I mean, officially, I guess he's no longer calling himself Captain America, but I think the way that he was being used in Captain America Winter Soldier, where he's just going around in a ball cap, I think that's basically how we're going to see him. I don't think it's. What do you think the chances are that you're going to see Steve Rogers take on a different persona, like a Nomad, or one of the other, I'm sure, code names he's been known by, Steve Rogers, throughout the years, other than Captain America? I'm sure, wasn't he just known as the Captain for a while?
Yeah, just for a while.
It. Yeah. So I wonder what do you think the chances are that he might be known as something different?
Maybe high. I'm interested to see where they take it.
Right. I think it would be silly if he did start calling himself the Nomad and start wearing a deep V type of shirt or outfit, super deep V as he did in the 70s. It's going to be interesting, because this is part of breaking down these characters, dissecting them, breaking them down to their core, that they've done already in Iron Man 3, where you had Tony Stark, who was not in the Iron Man armor for most of the movie, and they've already done it with Steve Rogers, and it looks like they're going to continue to do it. And I think that's how you tell good stories. You separate characters from what we know them as. It might actually help Batman in a future Batman movie to not have Batman running around, Bruce Wayne running around being Batman. I think that might be able to tell a more interesting story, kind of going against the grain, having Bruce Wayne running around, having to use his wits to get out of some type of jam without having the Batsuit aid him at every single turn. So right. I think that's something that Marvel's done really well so far, not just relying on Steve Rogers as Captain America using the shield in every single scene, or having Tony Stark only appear in his Iron Man armor, I should say, with his Iron Man army, I guess is what I meant to say. So it's good on them, and it looks like they're going to continue down the path where the men behind the mask, the machine, are really at center here. I think that's really the focus, and I think that's why Marvel It's something you can more easily relate to these Marvel characters because they're more than just the persona. And I think they've done that already in the past, and it sounds like they're going to continue that in the future. And I think that's why these Marvel films work.
Yeah, that's why they're able to do what they can do, is because they do it so well.
Yes. It's not easy. I mean, look at Suicide Squad. Look at Fantastic Four. Not anyone can just make a superhero movie. It's not easy, and I think you have to deliver something that's more than just like, well, here's Stretchy Man being stretchy. You need to portray to audiences who this character is, deep down, what makes this character put on a costume or put on the mask. I think you have to kind of dissect a character in that way in order to get audiences to care, and I think that's what Marvel's done really well. But moving on back to the DC side of things, there was an announcement that they are full go with another film as part of the DC Cinematic Universe, and this one is a Justice League film. But Justice League Dark is the film that no longer attached apparently to oh God help me, Benicio del Toro. What's the name of the Mexican Spanish director who was attached to this project for the longest time? If you can help me, Sean Brennan.
Guillermo del Toro.
Guillermo del Toro, so close. He is apparently no longer attached. Guillermo del Toro no longer attached to this project, and instead it's the director from the long-awaited Gambit movie who is choosing to move over from Gambit, I guess, jumping ship back. I don't know why you'd leave a cushy Marvel franchise. Granted, Fox's version of their cinematic universe with the X-Men isn't quite at the level, of course, as Marvel Studios, but still, is it a smart idea to jump over to Gambit? Seems like a property that people are, especially if it's Channing Tatum, Charming Potato. If he is if he's going to be your Gambit, is it a smart idea? Unless it's just frustration about a film never getting made, is it a smart idea to take on Justice League Dark in a sinking ship?
I mean, the thing is that you have to go where you know you're going to make money, and the thing is that if Marvel wasn't going to be able to do anything, or even if, because I think, does Fox own Gambit?
Yes. So that would be part of Fox Studios. That would be part of the overarching X-Men universe over there. So they would somehow figure out a way for Gambit to be part of the overall X-Men franchise.
Yeah, I mean, see, the thing is that if that doesn't pan out, what does he have? So if this is something that he sees as the most productive and the most fruitful endeavor, then yeah, I say go for it. And if it turns out to bite him in the ass, then it bit him in the ass.
Right, and it's an interesting. Doug Liman has been the director that has been attached to this Gambit film, but now it looks like he's jumping ship, and it's a weird choice. I have no problem with jumping over to DC if you're starting to get kind of pent up over it with this Gambit film that might never see the light of day. But Justice League Dark, is that a smart direction for, in your mind, Sean Brennan? Is this a smart direction for a cinematic universe that has been criticized as being, for lack of a better term, dark, too dark? Is adding more darkness? Is this kind of a double negative, where maybe adding -1 and -1 will be a positive? Two darks equal a positive. Is this just enough darkness to kind of give a shot in the arm of the DC cinematic universe? What do you think? Is it too much darkness?
No, I think it's great because it's weird, and when it comes to Justice League Dark, you're dealing with a whole sect of characters who happens to deal with supernatural. And I think that it's a good move. And I definitely feel that if this does finally go off, that why not? I think it could be the one take that DC needs, because Justice League Dark doesn't have to do anything with Batman, Superman, Flash, Green Lantern. This is a part of the DC universe that's just kind of like hidden right in the corner.
My concern with Justice League Dark, Sean Brennan, is, you know, we saw Suicide Squad, I believe, or at least you. I wasn't sure if you saw it or if you just read a bunch of everything that's out there about Suicide Squad. To me, anyway, the weakest part of Suicide Squad was the portrayal of the Enchantress, and that is a supernatural creature. She was weird, didn't seem to really jive with the overall universe that they were building. And I'm afraid, granted that, you know, David Ayer is a very different director from the director who's going to be doing Justice League Dark, but I'm concerned by how they've already introduced the supernatural side of the DC universe and Enchantress. And, you know, in this film, you have the option to use Zatanna, who is a sorceress type of character. John Constantine, who I think would be kind of the staple of a Justice League. The reason to make a Justice League Dark is to use John Constantine and to try to capitalize on his appeal. Let me ask you this: who is the center to you for a Justice League Dark film? Who is your main character? Who is the focus of a Justice League Dark film to you?
Are we still going with Justice League Dark?
Whatever, yeah, Justice League Dark, exactly. So whatever version of Justice League Dark that you're most familiar with, whatever version you're most familiar with, what is the direction to go with? What's the team? Who is the leader? Who's the focus of Justice League Dark? Because with Suicide Squad, I think what affected Suicide Squad is that you didn't have one main character, and I hope that DC can learn from their mistakes and actually have one sole leader of Justice League Dark, maybe in John Constantine, maybe Swamp Thing, or someone else.
Sean, I think that you could. I think you could have John Constantine. I think John Constantine, if you do him correctly, the way that Garth Ennis had it and wrote it, he's a great character. Or you could even have Swamp Thing. I think that both those are strong enough characters that have a strong enough following where you don't have to delve completely into their backstory and you don't have to do a ton of homework for a presentation of who they are. And I think that those are two strong leaders. Those are two strong stories to go into.
I'm not sure how familiar you are with the Justice League Dark as a team. If you have a period of Justice League comics that that was sort of your period of Justice League comics, have you ever read a good run on Justice League Dark ever?
No.
So, yeah, it's hard. I think people are familiar with, you know, Swamp Thing, John Constantine, but there have been very few runs, very strong runs on Justice League Dark have been very few and far in between. John Constantine, I think, has to be somewhat of your focus. But for me, Jeff Lemire, he had a really good run back in the New 52 days over at DC Comics. And you focused on John Constantine. And on that team, you also had, as we already discussed, Swamp Thing. Animal Man, I think, is a must for this movie. I think he brings something so completely different. He's not just supernatural. He takes from where he's just magical. His power set is derived from, I guess, tapping into all animals on the planet. Yeah. So it's a very different type of spiritual type of connection, other than just plain old general magic. I think he is a must for this movie. I think you have to get Animal Man working. Would you put Dead Man in this film, Sean Brennan?
I would. I think that you could definitely have him. Yeah. I think that he, again, is someone who's been in the background of the DC lore when it comes to magic for a long time. So I think that he would work too. I definitely think that if you want to stick with the dark, if you want to stick with a lot of just really demonology, I think that he would work much better than someone like Dr. Fate.
Right, right. I think Dr. Fate is sort of, he's almost overkill because I think having a John Constantine and someone who has a very strong tie to as far as being a sorcerer, they kind of cancel each other out. He's just a more powerful version, a less interesting, more powerful version, unless they can somehow get him working as a villain, because he is someone who, he has the helmet on, he is out of his powers are out of control. Maybe they come together to stop him. Something along those lines, but I don't know if he can be part of the team. I think he's too powerful, unless they get him to be really weird, almost where you can't relate to him because he's so powerful, much like the Vision from the Avengers, where he's part of the team, but he's so strange and odd, and so omnipotent as far as his power set, that brings something interesting to the table. I think Deadman is a weird choice because of his. Do you keep intact his entire background as far as being in the circus, or do you update that, or do you think
you don't have to? You can update it.
You think you'd be very open to an update as far as the Deadman character?
Yeah, as long as it's a good update. I mean, you can still do circuses. Like the thing is you could like have it on YouTube. Watch Circus Man die. That would get people to like pay attention. It would be an interesting video, even if they made it go viral and not say that it was for a movie. Imagine the press they would have, that like this one YouTube video of a man supposedly dying at a circus and someone caught it all on film. That would make the rounds of the internet, and it would be huge press,
so you would still
free press.
The circus element kind of at the core of his character. You wouldn't stray too far from that. A slight update, but you would still kind of keep the circus side of his character kind of intact. Interesting. Yeah, I think so too. I think that's kind of an essential part of his backstory. Otherwise, I mean, who is that? I think the weird trapeze type of Flying Grayson's outfit that he has doesn't make any sense if you kind of, and again, you could go a completely different direction, but I think that's part of the appeal and the charm of the Deadman character is that weird outfit with the big D on it, and it's a trapeze artist type of outfit. So this film could be what the Suicide Squad should have been, a very interesting ensemble where all characters kind of bring different things, and there's a lot of interesting chemistry, and there's a lot of room for levity because this is such a serious topic, but you have all these bizarre characters having to work together. I think this maybe could be their make good for Suicide Squad. What do you think?
I think that it could. I think that, again, it's got to come down to the script and how much DC wants to go ahead and put themselves in the middle of their own movie, because that seemed to be what was wrong with Suicide Squad, is that they just put themselves too much into a film that they didn't need to be a part of.
Well, you heard the report that Suicide Squad, the script was written in 6 months or 6 weeks. Was it 6 weeks? It was 6 weeks.
I don't know for sure.
It was written in 6 weeks. So you got to take longer with this Justice League Dark script in order to get it to work. I think they really have to sit long and hard and think long and hard to get this premise to work, because it's, if they strike out again with one of these movies outside of their Batmans and Supermans, if they can't get one of these films to work, I think outside of Batman and Superman, I think this shared universe is really doomed. And especially if it's just another super dark movie, I think that could really hurt the DC cinematic universe if you're just delivering another movie that's more of the same that people have kind of grown weary of very quick into this very short into the cinematic universe. Speaking of levity, Batman 66 getting a long awaited reboot in the form of an upcoming animated movie. Sean Brennan, is this something you're excited for? I guess a lot of reprisals in the way of Burt Ward, Adam West, the actress who played the original Catwoman is going to be. They're going to be coming back to do the characters, do the voices for their characters. What did you think? Did you see the trailer? Any thoughts on this?
I watched the trailer and I'm actually really excited about it because I think it's through the success that they had with Batman 66 and through the newer found love affair that younger fans are definitely having with the Batman 66. I definitely think it's a great move. I think that the way it looks is great, and I think that bringing back the original voice cast is a very solid move.
While I agree with you, of course, that they are capitalizing on the popularity of Adam West and kind of a nostalgia for this Batman 66 series that they haven't really done very much with. So that I think that's kind of built up people their appetite for it. Looking at the trailer for this, I think you almost needed to do. Granted, maybe I'll have a different opinion when I see the movie, but you almost needed to do this in a very different style. I think the style of this trailer, of the animation of this trailer, looks the same as the other more recent DC animated movies. Just everything looks dark and too serious as far as the overall presentation and tone of the animation. And I think you needed to go much brighter, much poppier, and make it look very distinctive and unique to itself than the other more recent, Flashpoint, the Justice League war movie, the more recent films that have come out, Batman vs. Robin. You know which films I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
I think this looks the exact same. I know its premise is poppier and lighter, but just looking at it, I don't think they've captured the overall look of what a Batman 66 animated film should look like, in my personal opinion, anyhow.
No, you're right. I definitely think that I don't think that stylistically, when you say it like that, and how stylized the whole Batman 66 is, that they didn't capitalize it on correctly, which they should have done. And I think that that's something that in the back of my mind was just like, that's a little weird, but...
Yeah, because it looks the same. It looks exactly the same to me. I think you needed to go with a different type of animation studio to provide something lighter. I don't know if you'd want to go as light and cartoonish as like Bruce Timm and his type of style, because but something that looks so cartoonish. But you needed to do I think you needed to do something poppier and livelier than the standard Warner Brothers, DC animated features that they've been presenting over the last several years, where it's just kind of paint by numbers as far as how they look. They look well polished and well produced, but I think you needed to go a different direction. But I mean, I will hold a lot, I guess, the remainder of my criticisms and thoughts until I guess I've seen the movie. It's very easy to hate on a trailer just based on 2 minutes of footage, but already I'm like, I was hoping to be kind of wowed by this, and I walked away from watching the trailer. I walked away. I took a long walk outside. It was raining. Maybe that added to my overall feeling. It's just a dark and dreary day. Was a very rare rainy day in this hot summer season right now, this heat wave we've been experiencing. But maybe that added to it. The fact that I was feeling kind of down in the dumps. So maybe when I watch it again, I'll be in a different state of mind. I guess we'll see. But really quick before we wrap things up on this 14th issue of the Super Friends Super Show, BuffaloCityLife.com, so you can find us over at iTunes as well. Ghost Rider is popping up over on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., ABC. Sean Brennan, tell me about it. What do you think?
I don't really care for the Ghost Rider character. I mean, the new character they have,
right?
His background's a little different.
Right, you have an all-new version of Ghost Rider. Not the Ghost Rider with the chains, the Nicolas Cage on the motorcycle. This is going to be more of a Ghost Rider, correct me if I'm wrong, in the car, I guess, with the leather jacket and the big upside down U, the N or something on the front of this leather jacket.
Yeah, I mean, it's still, he's a good character, and the comic run was good and well received. But I mean, I don't like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to begin with. I don't think just adding Ghost Rider is really going to help. I think that just might have been a character that they were able to use. I don't think that they haven't said any good reason why they didn't choose a more popular character or a more well-rounded character. They just kind of decided to go with Ghost Rider and the most previous adaptation of him.
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess this is the best they can get, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I think it's a good get for them. I think he certainly has name value, Ghost Rider. I think most people really couldn't tell you very much about him. Couldn't tell you why he's so popular, I suppose. And I think they have certainly sullied the good name of Ghost Rider through the two most recent cinematic versions of him with Nicolas Cage. I don't think that's helped Ghost Rider as a whole, but yeah, it's interesting. You know, I might pop in. I've kind of been a lapsed Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fan. I used to be a fan of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think I stopped watching after season 2.5. I kind of at the mid-season finale, I kind of gave up on it when things were sort of picking up. I don't know. I thought they were when they were going towards the Inhumans. I thought that was going to be cool, but it just seems like
not so.
It seems like it's a lot to bite off, a lot to chew. That I'm not really ready to sit down and kind of. And I feel like so much time has passed and I've forgotten about who these characters were. They have been they've been introducing brand new characters as fast as you possibly can, and I think that's kind of hurt the show. Too much changeover on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but maybe this will be kind of the shot in the arm they need. Ghost Rider, we'll see. But I have been Sean Dwyer, Sean Brennan at SeanDwyer.com, so you can find me on Twitter. Sean Brennan, you've been kind enough to take time out of your Labor Day is when we're recording this. Hopefully you're going to be hearing this tomorrow on the Wildfire Radio Network on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sean Brennan, what is the rest of your Labor Day looking like?
I'm going to keep taking care of Sarah because she's a little sicky, a little under the weather. And we're going to watch probably some really bad horror film. Or Whiplash. The one with about the drummer and where angry J. Jonah Jameson smacks the shit out of the kid because he's off time. It's going to be great.
You know, there's a film that I think you would really appreciate. I'm trying to find it really quick. I recommended it to a friend of mine. The movie is called, and this goes for not only you, Sean Brennan, but listeners out there. The movie is called Miami Connection.
Okay.
I'm not sure where you can find it, but it's definitely in its entirety. You can find it on YouTube. So if you have like a smart TV or a Roku, just pull up the YouTube app, put it on the big screen. It is called Miami Connection. If you have some time this Labor Day, pop it on. That goes to you too, listeners out there, and report back. I've watched most of it. I love it. It is one of the finest films I've ever seen. I'm trying to get my wife to watch it. So far, so no good. But Labor Day is still young. Maybe in the later hours of Labor Day, she'll come around to Miami Connection. Hopefully, you do too, Sean. What do you think? Miami Connection. What are the chances you watch it today on this Labor Day?
7 out of 10.
Yes. All right. Well, you're going to prepare to give it a 10 out of 10. Yeah. Because it is a fine film. So hopefully you get around to some great movies. And Sarah can get away from. She passes all that nickel that's, I guess, living in her
right, just deep in her lungs,
cavities, deep in her lungs. Hopefully she's able to cough out some of that and be in strong con shape as Buffalo Comic Con. It comes our way in, I believe, 2 weeks. I'm going to pull up my calendar really quick. Yeah, the 17th and 18th of September, Buffalo Comic Con comes your way and our way to the Buffalo Niagara Convention Center. So we're going to be there, going to have some interesting guests that we will talk more about next week, episode 15 of the Super Friends Super Show, Night's Shift. And we hopefully will have an update on Wrestle Draft. We might try to time that with, I'm not sure if you heard about this, Sean Brennan. There was an announcement press release that NXT and WWE Survivor Series is coming to Toronto So maybe in the we can get swept up in the pandemonium of the double event, and also Raw that Monday night. So maybe we can kind of time it when people are most interested in wrestling in November, and or maybe hopefully sooner. I would love to, the sooner the better, but maybe we can kind of time it around November. Maybe try to go to NXT in Toronto and have Wrestle Draft that week. So we'll see. We'll keep you updated. Sean Brennan, what else is going on with you?
That's about it. Yeah. Nothing else. Just going to take it easy for the rest of the day, and then we're going to work our way through the work week and then come back here with you and hopefully Mike McLean and maybe a special guest, who knows, and we're going to talk more, delve deeper into these crazy worlds that we love.
Yes, the multiverse of comics and friendship and wrestling, it's all connected, and that's the message we're trying to convey. So watch Miami Connection. Join us again next week. Super Friends Super Show, issue 15, Wrestle Draft. Hopefully we'll have more information, also more information about Buffalo Comic-Con. Find us at buffalocitylife.com, Wildfire Radio, iTunes, Stitcher, a bunch of other ways to find us, Twitter and Facebook. All good ways to see what we're up to. Until next week, adios. I don't know, what's a better sign off?
That was great. That was great.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Sean Brennan. See you next week.
Bye.